Hi, I'm Michael Stark. Today I'm going to show you how to do a still life oil painting. We're going to do this plein air, which means we're going to do it outside. It's lovely in the morning. You get some nice warm yellow colors in the light, and you get some nice purples and blues in the shadow. And also you get a nice sort of a lower angle of the light coming in, so you get some long shadows. It's just gorgeous. So we're going to do this right here in my front yard on Maui. The technique we'll be using is called Impressionism. And I'm going to layer cool and warm colors before I put the actual colors you see down. And what happens when you mix with the palette knife like that is you get a nice vibrant look, and that's why I call this vibrant impressionism. So I hope you enjoy today's lesson and learn a few things. You can paint along with me, or you can set up your own still life, or just watch and have fun. Alright, I think you'll find that anybody can do an oil painting. It's right in here. That's what it takes. It's just the desire to do it. And I'm going to give you some tips that's going to make it easier for you to do this. In fact, I think that you'll find it so easy that any clown can do it. Oh! So the first thing we're going to do when setting up our still life is to set up a surface or a table. So if you've got a decorative table, you could use that. I just grabbed an old wooden TV tray out of the closet. And we can fine-tune the details later. I got a sheet, don't tell anybody, also from the closet upstairs. I'm just going to set that out. Then we're going to go around, look around the yard, see if we can find some subject matter for the still life. I like to get some flowers or some fruit, or if you've got a nice ornamental thing sitting around the house that would look good, you can choose that. So here we are in the backyard, and the first thing we're going to try to do is get some flowers. First we have to fight some spiders. So that's not fun, but I'm looking at some plumeria here. If I can get it. Ooh. Okay, not good. We might save that yet. Okay, so we get some plumeria, some spiders. We don't want those in the still. At the lime tree, I think we can get away with this. I'm looking for some that are kind of ripe. I'll get a couple, and if I need another one later, I'll grab it. But for now, I'm just getting two, and then we'll look for some other stuff to put into our still life. I got the limes from the tree, so I got two of those. And just for a little dramatic effect, I've cut one in half. So we're just going to kind of set it around, and you can play around as you like to get a balance. I found an elephant from Thailand and a knife from, I think, from China. Okay, I've got a layout I think I like. There's sort of a balance here. You notice that different elements of the piece sort of balance each other out with their weight and maybe with their color tone. I've got some parts of each element in the light and parts in the shadow, which adds for more dramatic effect. So we're going to do a still shot of this, so you've got reference later. If you're not painting very fast, you really need that. So you need to make sure you get a good still shot, and I'll put one up on the video so that you can, if you want to paint the scene that I've set up, you can use that still and just freeze it on your computer and use that for your reference. Alright, so we'll get our still shot and then we'll go to the next step. If what I'm seeing is real, but I know it's true. Okay, I took out the Chinese knife. It was just a little too distracting, and we had some nice peaks and reds up here. So I set it up. We've got the light coming through. Got a little bit of a balance. We've got a still life. Now what we've got to do is get our substrate ready. Remember not to worry about some of the little details. Like if you notice in the back we have a fence and some bushes. We're going to be painting with the palette knife, and it is Impressionism, so we're just trying to capture the quick impressions of the moment. We're not trying to do something that looks like a photo shot. This is going to be real art with nice thick paint that comes alive, okay? So that's the technique we're working with. It's about light and shadow. And what I've got here is just a handy panel from Home Depot. It's just kind of a really high-grade plywood, and I've cut it with my saw into the size that I need, which is, for this piece, it's about 13.5 by 17.5. You probably will want to go with the standard size for framing purposes, but I make my own frames, so I just paint to fit the frame basically. And then I've painted it with gesso. Okay, we got kind of a rough sketch finished now. As you'll notice when you're painting outside, the time will change, the light will shift, and so you may need to move around a bit with your still life. And here's a quick reminder, don't be a starving artist. If you're like me, you forget to eat and drink. I went out and I found an egg in the bushes over there from the wild chickens, and let me tell you, that is one good farm egg. So it's a good time to take a break for breakfast, get some French ground coffee, get refueled, make sure you drink water too. Don't forget to take care of yourself, otherwise you'll pass out before you're done with the painting. Alright, we had a breakfast break. I put on some sunscreen and changed my shirt so I can be out in the sun a little bit, and I've got my sun hat on. What we're going to do now is get our palette ready. I have one of those disposable palettes, so it's easy to just use it and throw it away. And now we're going to lay out some of our colors. Well, mostly we're going to use whites. We're going to put a bunch of white there in the middle. And I'm also going to put some liquid in there. What I do is kind of guerrilla art. It needs to be ready for market in a couple of days, and of course some oil painting may take a while to dry. So instead of mixing any oil medium in, I mix in some Winsor & Newton liquid when I mix my colors with a knife. That's a little too much, but I'll just deal with it. Then we're going to set out just a nice palette of variety of colors. Okay, we're ready to start painting now. And one thing that I've done in my sketch is I made some notes here, and I didn't just sketch the scene, I also sketched areas of light and dark. And so you can see I put a little W there just to give you an idea. W for white. And so these are some of the brightest parts of the painting. And to get that vibrant look, we're going to do an underpainting. So I mixed some white and some lemon yellow. And we're going to just hit those sections with the underpainting. Everywhere that the light in the painting is the brightest, we're just going to put a little blob there with a knife. So I'm just finishing up the highlights on this piece, and I've used for some areas cadmium yellow mixed in with white, and that's what I'm using for my brightest light in the sun. So the white tablecloth and the white sunspots on the plumeria. And on the rest, like some of the leaves, I'm using a little bit of a light cadmium, medium cadmium yellow mixed with white. So it's a slightly different, it's a different tone pretty much altogether as far as a light yellow. So lemon yellow for the brightest whites, and for the vegetation highlights, again, it's a cadmium yellow based light. Okay, for our next step, I've got some medium cadmium yellow and some dark cadmium yellow, and I mix that in with some of my other cadmium and white just a bit to create this orangey yellow. And we're going to use some of that and a little bit of lighter version to work on the next brightest points in the artwork, in the scene. And one thing we noticed is at the heart of the flowers there is some bright orange. And so we're going to just put some blobs of that in there, say orangey yellow. And we're going to come back again and fine tune all this later. And we're also going to be working on some of the vegetation areas that are in the lights. And so for them we want a little bit lighter version. And where it's not quite as bright as the rest, but we'll just tone that in a little bit.
When I look at you,
So now we're going to work on some of the shadows in the piece, underpainting. So we're going to work on the shadow of the elephant here on the white tablecloth. We're just trying to, like paint by number. We're just going to block in some of those areas. This is a cerulean blue with a little bit of violet and some white. Still working on our shadows, and in the very base of the objects on the table I've added in a little bit darker underpainting, so it's more violet and blue than the surrounding shadow. So there's like several layers of color in the shadow, and the closer you are to the object, a little bit the shadow underpainting is going to be a little bit darker. So just under there we're going to put a little bit darker. It's in the foreground. We'll make that a little bit darker too. Okay, and I've got a cerulean blue with just a little bit of green mixed in. This is where the shadow is on the limes. Okay, so we're going to work on the shadows of the flowers now. So the plumeria are kind of a whitish paint color, but the shadow I'm using sort of a violet blue with white. So we're going to fill in kind of the leftover spaces where we did not put any light areas, because the light areas are all the spots in the flowers that we're getting light. We have already put in yellows, so now we're putting in blues and purples, the colors of the shadows. So we've got some of our violet blue shadows on the flowers. It's a pretty sloppy mess right now, but that's okay. We're just kind of filling in the blanks now. And I'm going to work on the elephant now, and I've got some Prussian green mixed with some white. And we're going to just kind of fill that in. This elephant has sort of a copper, oxidized copper look to it. So the areas that's in the sun are going to be brighter, so we'll put in those areas. So there's a little reflected atmospheric light on the side away from your view, and that's going to be a little bit lighter. You've got a little sky reflection there, so it's brighter. Okay, so we've done a little bit of work with the elephant, and I want to work on the vase now. So I've got a little bit of some of that Prussian green from the elephant that I mixed in with some of my shadow color here and added some white. And what I want to do is work on some of that vase, and just the color of the glass, sort of where you can't see the plants really inside in that area, so it's just sort of water in the glass.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I've added in just a little more pure Prussian green. Alright, I'm gonna work a little bit on my reds now. So I've got my brightest fiery red, and I'm just gonna put that in a few spots because it's really more of a highlight color, but I want to put it where the sunlight is hitting those red flowers most intensely. Kind of windy out here, so I'm fighting the elements a bit. I'm working on the flowers now, so I've got a rose with white that's a little more white, and then I've got some that's a little more rose, and then I've mixed in the liquid, of course. So the darker one I'm going to put on the flowers that are actually more red, more intense.
Not a mile or an ocean can take this unity away from us, no, oh yeah. Now the trust that we build, the storms we endure, only strengthen our love, baby girl.
Okay, we've been working on the flowers. Now we've got to get back to the limes a little bit. So what I've got here is a bit of white with some phthalo green, and I mixed in a little bit of the medium cadmium there. Okay, I've mixed a little bit of a terra verte green with some of that color I had from my lime skin, and I mixed that up with a bit of medium, cadmium medium. And we're going to work on laying in some color on the leaves that we've been ignoring. And again, we'll try to sort of fill in the holes. Okay, I've got some medium cadmium and some of that light yellow I had, but I lightened it up quite a bit. What I want to do is get some effect on this meat of the lime there. Makes you want a gin and tonic, doesn't it? Alright. Okay, we're at our sort of starting on our next phase now. What I've got here is a white for the tablecloth to go on top of that yellow. I didn't make it pure white. I made it sort of a little bit of a salmon white. I filled in some cadmium yellows along with a little bit of that pink because the plumeria is going to be very white, and since the plumeria are more the subject of the piece, I wanted them to be more pure white than the tablecloth. So we're going to just take that in and just like icing a cake, lay that in on top of that yellow. And it's going to blend in a little with the yellow, lemon yellow that's under there, which is exactly what we want it to do. That's why we do the underpainting. Sometimes you got to get weird positions to make it work. Yoga might help. Okay, now I got some titanium white mixed in with some liquid, and when you mix it with the liquid, you want to really cream it good. It's like you're getting ready to bake a cake or something. Talking to myself. Okay, now I'm going to look at where the first things I painted on here were the brightest points of the painting. So right now, we're going to go in and hit those with this pure white. So there's that lemon yellow that was in the vase. Right, and we got a spot there. And we have a spot here.
Dad.
Yes, sir.
You know, I know where did you learn how to make that video?
Where I learned how to make what?
TV. You learned that video from
start pulling in some of the colors. Like I'm going to blend these flowers just a little bit by smearing the knife. First I got too much white paint on there, so I'll get some of that off. I'll probably hit that again with some paint. I'll clean it off my knife, and then what I'll do is just sort of pull these together. Kind of dragging paint so we can maintain the definition of those petals.
Look, it's my turn now. Look, apologize if I stutter. So emotional.
Okay, I've been laying a little detail in the flowers, and now I'm going to lay in some sort of a light blue lavender tone over the blue shadows, because it's just too blue, right? So we're going to lay that in and let it blend with the tone that's there now.
Even all the fish in the ocean know, and me and you should be together like, don't you know? We were meant to be, like your first single. Oh, trust me, the grass isn't greener. I've been there before, now let me be your intervener. I do anything to keep you in my arena. You take my breath away, girl, emphysema. Hey, no one could love you quite like me. Remember, you got the lock, but I got the key. You open up your heart, and I...
Okay, now we're going to add in some darker shadows.
It fits so perfect, like the same maker made it. Hey, and at the risk of making this sound jaded, we're too deep, we can't quit. Someone's gotta save it. It must have been love to me, it never faded. I love you, always yours, baby. Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to bring in what I like to call atmospheric reflection. So there's a few spots on here where we need to show a little sky color. Even though there's no sky in our scene, we want to show the sky reflecting off some of the surfaces. So one of them where we really need it is on the edge of this line, because the greens are just merging into each other. And we get a little under reflection of his under the jowl here. And this makes you feel like it's really 3D. It makes all the difference in the world when you're trying to do a painting. Without that atmospheric reflection, it's going to look really flat. So remember to just pick, the sky blue and use that color in general. Okay, now I'm just doing a little detail work for the gold. Okay, I've worked a little more. I added some highlights to the lime there, worked a little more atmospheric reflection into the side, and worked on the shadows, and I worked on the gold accents a little bit on the elephant there. And the subject of the painting, all of the still life, is essentially done. What we want to do now is just sort of fill in all that empty atmospheric space around it. And what I've done is I've got some liquid in there. I've mixed all of my dark colors up that were on my palette here and made this goopy, muddy stuff. And we're just going to fill it in there because it's floral. I'm out here by the palms. I'm going to try to tend it towards the green where I can. But we're not really worried about this. This is all just kind of background stuff. We don't want it really uniform. We just want to make sure it's blocked in. Okay, what I've done now is kind of block in a lot of that background area, and it's almost done. I've got a few little spots left to do on that. And don't be afraid to turn your canvas or your board around so that you can reach those awkward areas. That's what I'm doing right here, because it's not easy. Take your time, but not too much time. Remember, it's Impressionism. It's not supposed to be a photograph. Don't worry so much. So now we're just kind of fine-tuning and trying to fix any errors we might have made. Like, I think the vase is not exactly bilateral, so we want to try and fix that a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to balance. Okay, that may be good enough right there. So just kind of butter the bread there. It's kind of nice to have some of your edges be a little rough. Okay, I added some spectral highlights to the gold on the elephant. I added some darker shadow into the bases of the objects on the table. And the last thing that I really feel I need are some of the colors in the flowers. They need to be a little more orange. I'm going to just pick one and hold it right here. So you know right at the center of the flower there's a little bit of a darker orange color. First I'm going to pop that in there. Okay. And then we're going to get a little bit brighter yellow and sort of pull a little bit out into each petal.
So I wish you the best and nothing less. No, I don't mean to hurt you.
I added some spectral highlights to the gold on the elephant. I added some darker shadow into the bases of the objects on the table. And the last thing that I really feel I need are some of the colors in the flowers. They need to be a little more orange. I'm going to just pick one and hold it right here. So you know right at the center of the flower there's a little bit of a darker orange color. I'll go ahead and sign this, finish up the petals here, and then we'll check in tomorrow after I've had a chance to sleep on it. See if there's anything I can't live with. Alright, well I hope you had some fun watching. Aloha. Alright, the painting's dried overnight. I didn't need to change anything. So what we're going to do here is give it a coating of KMR varnish, which is my favorite thing to coat oil paintings with. And give it a good shake. And a couple of good coats. Alright, the KMR varnish dried in just a few minutes, so now our painting is ready to put into the frame. I made a nice frame out of this solid wood Italian gold molding with the linen scoop, and that's what we're going to use. So first thing we do is use our staple gun to attach this to the frame.
I'm happy it's over with. It's time to relax and time to unwind. I throw up my hair and put on these dancing shoes. I'm going out, going out, I'm going out, baby.
Yeah.